This is Death or Prison, brought to you by leanonmeusa.org. We bring you stories of hope and encouragement.
Hello and welcome to the Death or Prison podcast, brought to you by leanonmeusa.org. I am Johnny Branham.
I'm Oswald Newbold.
And I'm Patrick Mahoney.
Welcome.
Welcome, Patrick. We're having a conversation with Patrick today. Welcome to the Death or Prison podcast. You are a New Yorker originally, and in the realm of criminal justice, how did you end up in that world?
I am. I'm a Yankee at heart, I guess.
Okay.
But first of all, thank you for allowing me to come here today and talk to you and talk to the population. Very, very interested in doing that. So I'm from New York. I went to college in New York, State University of New York at Brockport. Majored in criminal justice. Always had an interest in criminal justice law. At one point, I thought I might go to law school.
Okay.
But 4 years of college, I think, was enough. I didn't want to continue to keep going. And there was always just this keen interest in law and criminal justice and in my heart, helping people. And that was one of the reasons why I became a probation officer. I thought there was that helping aspect along with law enforcement and criminal justice.
You was a probation officer in New York?
Nope. I was a probation officer here in Florida. After I graduated from college, got married. My wife and I moved to Florida, Fort Lauderdale.
Okay.
Became a probation officer in Circuit 17, Broward County, Fort Lauderdale. Went through the academy, which is a training program that probation officers go through. Back then, it was 11 and a half weeks, teaching you all sorts of skills to be a probation officer, Florida law, rules and regulations, communication skills, report writing, all the aspects of what a probation officer's job duties entail. And then became a probation officer. And one of the reasons why I wanted to be a probation officer, it got me involved in the system. And there was also a helping aspect to probation work.
Oh, that's good. So as a probation officer, I guess a general question I would ask is, like, what were some of the things you liked about it, but also what were some of maybe the challenges? It could have been systemic or anything, but what was some of the things you saw in probation and within your own power, how were you able to still help the people that was on your caseload, I guess I would say?
Right. So challenges would be a caseload. The size of caseloads become a tremendous challenge for individuals that are probation officers. The workload is great. I think that's getting better though, with more resources coming into that system. So one of the challenges is workload. Bureaucracy is always a challenge. Working within a system and having to deal with the bureaucracy and all the rules and regulations that kind of follow the bureaucracy. That's challenging. You want to work with people and deal with people, but we all know working and dealing with people with all different backgrounds and issues and problems and things that they want to change is a challenge. Mm-hmm. Working with people is a challenge, but very rewarding at the same time. Seeing people succeed was a really inspirational part of the job as well. Being able to help those people that wanted to get help. Individuals that came and asked questions. I was 25, 26 years old when I became a probation officer.
Still learning life yourself.
Yeah, I was right. I was young, thought I knew the world, didn't know the world, wanted to cure the world. And then you have individuals that are, 40, 50, 60 years old coming to me for help. That was inspiring. Challenging at the same time because you got somebody much older than you asking for help.
Were there any early stories that you can think of during those first few years? There's typically some things that kind of impact you and you carry those stories on later in your career. Were there any impactful stories that you can think of?
Yeah, there was. One comes to mind, and when I mentioned, the older individuals that would come for help, I had a drug offender probation caseload, and it was an individual that was probably in his late 40s, early 50s. That was, he was in good shape. Presented himself very well, I got to know him. Was one of those really compliant individuals that showed up on time, made his appointments all the time, did his therapy, was just really a compliant individual. But as I got to know him, he had a lot of problems. I mean, he had a severe drug problem. Now I knew he did because he was on drug offender probation, but didn't really understand it because the way he presented himself was this kind of almost like a model individual.
Got it all together.
Yeah, until you really get to know an individual. He had a severe drug problem. But he was one of those guys that did everything he had to do. And because of that, at least when you start learning about addiction, relapse is part of addiction. They always tell you. He relapsed. And because he did, he came in and told me he relapsed. It wasn't even like the time you detected on a drug test or anything.
Yeah.
He came in and reported to me that he relapsed the night before. And so I wanted to help that individual because he was somebody that was compliant, needed help, wanted help, just had a severe problem. But that still sticks to me. That's 25 years ago.
That does speak volumes because that speaks to the relationship that you had. Typically, the last person that you're wanting to speak to may be that authority figure. If you were the probation officer, you might tell your mom, your dad, or someone in your circle, but certainly not the probation officer that could have the power to violate you.
Yes.
So there was that trust there.
There's that trust there too. And, then there's individuals that you have on your caseload that they don't want help. They want to continue to game the system. And I supervised many of them too. They don't want the help. So, if you're going to continue to break laws and rules, then, there's the alternative.
So, but what we do see too is the people that need the most help many times are the ones who don't want the help. Like the ones who don't want the help need the help the most. They just don't see it. They want to live how they're living. That goes to the fact of just human behavior. Right. So that's the challenge. So how do we reach those individuals? How do we reach those individuals? We know they need the help, but they're trying to game the system, as you say. How do we help them turn the corner? And it won't happen overnight, but how do we inspire them to at least give themselves a chance and turn the corner? Because otherwise, they're on probation, you're going to end up locked up. And I know they don't want to be there. What are some tools? How long did you work in probation? Let me ask you that first, roughly.
So worked in probation roughly 8-9 years.
8-9 years. Okay, that's good. That's what I mean. You had a stellar career doing some other things too. But I'm just saying that I believe that even though a probation officer has authority over a person, they also like a case manager too, helping them get to the resources, helping them mend their life. It's bigger than just making sure you don't get in any trouble. A part of you not getting in trouble is helping you get your life together too. So like, how do we inspire? You may not have the answer, and I might need to kick it to Johnny to kick in. How do we inspire the individuals? They don't want help, but the ones who don't want the help usually the ones that need the help the most. How do we reach those individuals?
So I think knowing, and this is all part of learning and experience. As a 25-year-old, I may not have known, 26-year-old, I may not have known how to handle somebody like that
at that time.
But through experience and then wisdom and knowledge, as you get older, you start learning. Community intervention is probably one of the key parts. Mentorship, knowing who in the community, because we're community corrections officers, right?
Yeah.
The individuals on probation are in community. There's a lot of resources that we know of that are in community that probation and parole officers learn to tap into to help individuals like that.
Yeah, tapping them,
A probation officer can't do it all.
but getting them engaged in community with those they
think so.
relate to and get that help. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's return to something you was talking about a few minutes ago, where the client had relapsed. He came to you. He self-reported. Like, how were you able to help him, or were you able to help him? What happened next with that individual?
Yeah, no, good question. So we were able to help him. I was able to help him. I think the system also was able to help him. He came in, he disclosed that he used the night before because of his addiction. And because he was so compliant and wanted help and reported to me, he didn't need to report to me that day. He just came in. He wasn't even required to come in that day. He just came in and tell me. Like I mentioned, that's an individual you want to help. As a probation officer, I'm obligated to, at that point, notify the judge that he violated his probation. And we had that conversation. I remember that dialogue. That sorry, I don't even remember his name, but sorry, Johnny. That not you, Johnny. Sorry that I got. You understand? I have to report this
Mandatory
to the judge.
report. Yeah.
But continue going back to your meetings. Go report this to your treatment counselor. I got to report it to the judge. I think the judge came back, if I remember correctly, in Broward County. Back then it was, they were pretty harsh, so they'd sign warrants for everything. So we signed a warrant, and I had to take him into custody. He sat in jail for a couple of days. I went to the violation hearing, and kind of advocated for him. Here's an individual that he's a stellar probationer, is doing everything he can to succeed on probation. He reported this to me. I didn't even find it out. I didn't have to, drag it out of him. He reported it to me. And the judge, I remember, listened and just kind of added more conditions, put him back on probation, added more conditions, and I think gave him more treatment. I think may have even put him into a residential treatment facility at that point. So he was able to stay in community, keep his job, support his family, pay taxes, do everything that a law-abiding citizen was able to do. And that was one of the, rewarding parts of the job.
You spent 9 years in probation. And what did you transition to after that in your criminal justice career?
So there were a few aspects of those 9 years that were not necessarily in the streets probation. I was
Gotcha.
I became a training officer, so I became the training officer for Broward County Circuit 17. The individual that kind of schedules annual training for the other probation officers, provided training for the other probation officers. So there was a training aspect that I was part of. And then I eventually transitioned into the program side of the Department of Corrections. And I monitored and certified batters intervention programs in Florida. That was interesting. And then I got into the program's organizational structure within corrections, and that's where I've been until I retired.
You said you used the word interesting. So what was interesting? Because now you're a training officer. I believe you're just learning things on the go. What was interesting about the job, and what were you learning, and how did that how did that go?
Right. Well, when I became a training officer, I was already several years into the job. It was interesting because it took you off the street, direct supervision of individuals that were on probation, and now you're in an administrative role, coordinating training, providing training in a classroom setting. Training individuals that had many years more experience than I did. So it was interesting, and it gave me that administrative experience that I think carried me through, the subsequent years of my career.
Right. And and what you did that around 8 or 9 years? When you got into the training part, how long did you stay in that capacity?
Just a year or two.
Year
If
or
I
two?
remember correctly, yeah, it wasn't that long because with corrections, things always change. So
Yeah.
administratively,
Right. Okay.
the training organizational structure changed. So I wasn't transitioned into something different.
Okay, so you look like your career is moving. You're growing. You're learning things. You're moving on. You know, all of us here talking now. We only about 26 years old and not a day older,
Yeah,
right? But it seemed like life was good. I mean, and again, you was in your 20s, but probably about in your 30s then.
By then, I was probably close to 30. Yeah.
Yeah, man, still learning life,
Yeah, in my
enjoying
30s.
life,
Yep.
learning life, enjoying life. Where did your career go in criminal justice, and how were you still making strides? Like, what was your mind when you were young? Were you the radical who wanted to change the criminal justice system, or you wanted to just be within it, or you say, well, this is what I can do. Let me do the most within my capacity. Where were you at as a young man in the criminal
Yeah,
justice
no,
system?
and I can guarantee you, no one's ever described me as radical.
Oh, okay.
I am not radical.
Yeah.
So no, I was never one that wanted to, I mentioned that change the world, but
Yeah, yeah.
never really somebody that wanted to go out there and change the world. I wanted to contribute and help in any way I could. And law and criminal justice was one of those fields that I enjoyed. And I had I guess a helping heart too. I wanted to help people, and probation provided that bridge where you could enforce laws
Yeah.
and then also help people that needed to be helped.
You mentioned a pivot after the probation. You pivoted into programs. What was that transition like? Was that something that you advocated for? Was it just something, an opportunity that came open, available, and you took it? How did that happen?
Well, I think it was a combination of the two. When you're young and you're in an organization and you look for opportunities for change and promotions, So it was an opportunity, but I was also looking into more of a facilitation and even an implementation of some of the things and programs that I knew worked. And that was my opportunity to do that. So I transitioned into the program side of it, where I was working with a lot of the program providers, the treatment providers that were in the community that I used to refer individuals to while they were on probation. And also as you then advance through the program side, you're able to be part of the change. Making changes within those programs or suggesting changes within those programs based on my experience on how to improve the aspects of treatment and programming that could help individuals on probation. So that I got involved in that, and that became very rewarding to me.
I've heard a few words since you've been here talking, and I heard the word like contribute to community, save the world, help. Did faith ever play a role in like your motivation with helping people?
So back then, maybe.
Young.
I grew up an Irish Catholic.
Okay.
My uncle, my mom's brother, was a Catholic priest. So I always had that that faith kind of behind us. Uncle Bernie, we called him. My uncle was a Catholic priest his whole life. Actually became a Monsignor. We have a picture of him with Pope John Paul II, one of his trips to. It's a funny story too. My uncle had good jokes, even though he was a priest. He had really good jokes. We have a picture of him. I guess it's probably back in the 80s. He made a trip to Rome and he met Pope John Paul II at the time, and he's sticking out his hand, and they're both sticking out their hand to shake. And the Pope had something in his hand. You could see it in the picture. And my uncle always said, you want to know what that was? And I was like, yeah, Uncle Bernie, what was it? He goes, he was a jokester. It was one of those buzzers.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
But it wasn't. It was a crucifix.
Oh.
But that was just sorry. That was just a side joke. But I always had there was always faith inside of me, whether I knew that guided me at the time I was that, in my 20s and early 30s.
Yeah.
Maybe. I'd like to say yes, I guess. It just an unconscious guidance. But as you get older, of course, faith is always part of.
And in life,
decision.
sometimes we don't know exactly what we see, but we see light ahead of us.
Mhm.
And that light will be guiding us, even though we don't know exactly where that light is
Right.
standing at.
Right.
So I could see that. But I think when it comes to wanting to serve and help people, it comes from a genuinely good place.
Right.
And even if we don't understand where it comes from at that time, I believe it's that higher power in our heart.
Right. Yeah.
And
I, getting a lot. I'm not somebody that I'm not a preacher. Faith does guide me as it's guiding me more and more as I get more mature and older. But I'm the youngest of 7. Grew up in a house of 7. I have a stepsister, younger stepsister. But I was the youngest of 7, 6 boys, 1 girl in the house. Everybody always says, "Oh, your poor sister," and I say, "No, not my poor sister, man. She's the toughest of all of us." So, but with all my siblings went to Catholic school. I was the only one that did not go to Catholic school because I was the youngest. So I went through public school.
okay.
And I think back now, I'm probably the most faithful and spiritual
Out of
all of them.
look
So
at that.
I don't know. Go explain that.
That light was leading
Maybe it was
you
Uncle
when you
Bernie.
didn't know
I
it.
don't know.
So I've known you a while, and I know you've done many great things, and you had a long, stellar career. And for the people out there that don't know you, help us know what that path was like. We know you was in probation, you went to training, you was doing the programs, but for our listening audience, let them know some of the things you've done in your criminal justice career, if you will take us through that journey right now.
Yeah, so I guess probation was probably my guiding, the guiding light throughout my career. I always, the probation side of corrections is much smaller than the prison side of corrections. So prisons gets a lot of attention, but I always reverted back to if while making decisions at the decision level of a director when I retired, always had probation in my mind. How can we help that? Because that's where community is really what it's all about. So I advanced through corrections, became a regional program manager overseeing a region of programs and staff. And then about 20 years ago, so about 17, 18 years left of my career, I transferred to Tallahassee. Took a transfer and started working in central headquarters. Worked in the Bureau of Substance Abuse, became an assistant bureau chief, then the bureau chief of substance use and transition. And then the last 6.5 years of my career, I led the programs and reentry division, which was, I keep saying the word rewarding. It was, I used to tell people when I was in that job, I had the best job in corrections. You get to see all the good, right?
Yeah.
All the good that happens within the correction system, not necessarily the bad that happens in the housing units and things like that.
So you got experience in probation, you had experience in substance use, you had experience in reentry. I mean, reentry is one of the big things going on right now. And I remember when you was head in divisions. That's why I say I've known you. I met you later in your career.
Right.
But I know you've always wanted to help. And these days, You retired now, right?
I'm retired now.
You
Yeah.
retired.
Yeah, about
Okay.
2 years ago.
Take me with you.
Fishing pole,
Yeah.
boat somewhere.
No, golfing more.
Golfing
Yeah.
more.
Golfing more.
Okay.
Yeah. Fishing was always found a little too boring for me. I
Okay.
can't sit still.
Yeah. I remember talking to you probably a couple years ago. Maybe were we in Tennessee? Or it could have been in Arkansas, but you say, hey, I want to try to do some of the things I couldn't do during my career, but now I'm out to like help where I can. For the audience and for everybody, let us know the things that you're seeking to do or some of the things you've accomplished and the things you're still looking to do that could positively impact and help others.
I retired from the Department of Corrections about 2 years ago. The last 6.5 years of my career, I led programs in reentry division. 30 years within the system. It's pretty much what I know. I couldn't go out and run a business.
Okay.
Although I'm kind of doing that now, but a lot of people, they retire and they go and they'll buy an ice cream shop or a Subway or something like that's not me. So I wanted to stay in this space, corrections, reentry, helping in a different capacity. And that's what I'm doing now with my Mahoney Consulting Strategies business. I'm doing consulting work with some private entities. I'm serving on boards with my knowledge, skills, and abilities, helping these associations through my board participation. And I'm also working, a little bit more with my local church. It's funny how I've been going to this church for several years, and I didn't know until after I retired, that they had a prison ministry aspect. Didn't
Wow.
know. Didn't know.
How you missed that?
I don't know. I just did.
How did you miss that?
Me and my wife would just go sit and
How they didn't even say anything to you? Did they know
I
your
knew
career?
they had the whole Kairos thing and everything, but I thought that was just more of just Kairos doing what Kairos does.
Yeah.
I didn't know that the church actually had,
A prison ministry.
Prison ministry. But so getting a little bit more involved in that in my local community, and I just wanted to stay in this space. It's what
That's
I know.
good.
So.
And that's good. At least you didn't turn your back on the industry that you was in. So I just feel you're gonna do great contributions. And hey, I know there's still more that we could talk about in the next episode.
Yes, there definitely is. Thank you, Patrick, for sharing that first part of your story. And we're going to get into more on the next episode. This is the Death or Prison podcast brought to you by leanonmeusa.org. Now, this is a Death or Prison podcast, but we say choose life.
At the end of your